Well, happy 4th of July, everybody. I'm just sitting down, relaxing, taking in what I've been working on. So let's talk about the backdrop, how I did that. So I want to talk a minute about how I prep the backdrop. So this is stuff usually called Masonite, but it's I think Masonite is a brand name like Kleenex, and Lowe's doesn't sell Masonite, but they've got this other stuff which is similar to it, which I use from other backdrops. It comes in 4x8 sheets. This stuff was only like 12 bucks. It's pretty cheap. It will bend easily. I'm going to cove the corner. So I cut it 16 inches. I'll cut another piece 16 inches also. That will be more than enough. I won't have to worry about, I'm not going to show more than 16 inches of the backdrop. Something I'm going to try this time is sanding it after I get done. So I got my sander out. I wanted to sand the edges anyhow, but also I think the spray adhesive might hold a little bit better the backdrop paper to it if I sand it, get rid of that sort of glossy sheen to it. So I'll go ahead and cut these out, and then I'm gonna figure out how I'm gonna attach the backdrop to it in the coved corner. Since I've gotten so many positive comments on the Fowler backdrop, I decided I would go ahead and use that for the new section. It didn't make sense to not use it for Chillicothe. So I've taken the backdrop off, stripped the old one off, threw it away. So my hardboard needs to match up with this right here. And because the backdrop that I selected is not going to match up with the hill that's down here, it's actually going to come in higher, because that's just the best way to lay it out. I'll show you when we get out in the garage. I'm going to overlap it till it's behind this hill. So I'm actually going to have like 4 inches from this edge overlap, and then you just won't be able to know that I did that. It's a little tedious. I keep bringing it in here before I attach it to the hardboard and cutting it and matching it and everything. The clouds will not match, but you can see on this one, I sort of took some spray paint and sort of blended them together. And that's what I'll have to do on this one too. So this piece of hardboard is 6 feet. You can hear a mouse fussing at me. And it's going to end up about here, and I'm going to put a 2x4 here so I can match the next one to it and get around the corner to be coved. And it's going to come to this 2x4. So I should have something pretty solid to anchor the coved corner to. That's my thinking anyhow. So I'll show you what the backdrops look like out of the package. So these are 2 sets of Fowler backdrops, and they come numbered A, B, C, and D. So they line up like that. So if you see, I've got the section over here, because I can't use the full height. They're like 26 inches tall. I don't need 26 inches tall. So I've already trimmed this off so it'll match up like that. This is the section that I just talked about in there. So this is going to be butting up against the other hardboard. This is going to be overlapped, and it'll just be glued onto that other piece of paper backdrop. But it'll go on like this. This one I'm going to have to cut off. Well, no, I'm not going to have to cut off since I did that. It's actually not going to be the entire length of it, but that'll give me enough space to overlap a little bit on the other one. Well, like I was talking about, so this is D, this is C. Since I'm working right to left, going off the existing Oak Hill backdrop, I have to go backwards, DCBA, DCBA. I don't think I'll need all of the, both sets of backdrops. I'll probably end up with like B and A left over from the other one. So I'm going to attach this with Gorilla Super Glue. Now I've got it pretty much where I want it. I'm going to spray it down, and then I'm going to attach this one And then I'm going to take it in and see how it works. Again, I roughed up the hardboard a little bit, and just because the other one just doesn't seem, you know, I've tried 2 different super glues. This one, or the spray glue, the other one was a 3M Super 77, and both of them sort of come loose a little bit after a while. But this notch up here is for where the support for the valance is, and I'll have to cut that out bigger, but I didn't want to be fighting it when I put it in. So once it's up there, I will take an X-Acto knife and I'll cut it out exactly right. And I'll have to do the same thing down here in 2 places, I believe. So anyhow, I'll show you what it looks like after I've got it glued on. I'm just going to follow the directions on the spray can and, you know, glue it on. It's a really humid day here. It's been raining, so hopefully that doesn't affect the quality of it too much. This is the first piece. There is a little mild buckling in it right in here. Again, I'm just not wild about the spray adhesive method. I was able to peel it up and smooth it down, so the buckling is gone now. The stuff doesn't adhere strongly for quite a while. You can still play with it a little bit. I really smoothed it down as good as I could with my hands. I don't know if the humidity is causing that. Now, if you notice, I left it sticking up a couple inches at the top. The old backdrop, this was my original painted backdrop, which I didn't really care for, so replaced it. Had to cut notches in it to clear the supports for the lighting valance, so it made getting it out a real pain. So basically, the new backdrop is the height of this. Should be able to go in easier, and but I left the paper sticking up a little bit, and I'll cut notches where those are. That's sort of what I did in Oak Hill, if you ever notice it. That's what I did. So I'm hoping it will go in easier. So I assume this is some type of European cell tower, but nothing like this in the United States. Originally I was going to cover it with the smokestack for Mead paper, but the perspective is just wrong from the what I tried to do. So I'm just going to spray paint it for white clouds. So that's why all the tape's on it. It won't be perfect, but I think I can get it where you won't notice it at all, because you really shouldn't be looking at the backdrop anyhow, as my friend Fran always says. So here's the weird towers I disguised with paint. I'm going to touch it up a little bit, make it look a little bit better, but you can't see them. Now I also hit that seam just a little bit, and I might do that a little bit more. So come on down here. I've got a 2x4 mounted to the wall. There's no stud there, so I had to put those anchors in. It's pretty solid. That's where that, you know, piece ended up. So I'm going to go around, cut a piece of masonite. I'm actually going to cut it a little bit too long for now, and I'm going to bring it in here and I'm going to butt it up against this. And I'm going to bend it and mark it so I know how far to cut it off here. Try to figure out what kind of cove I want on it, and then I'll screw it in place. For here, I'm going to have to put the backdrop on it in place, because if I would do it in the garage and then flex it, that stuff would just pop right off. So I'm going to have to be very careful, mask the walls and everything, and spray it and put it in right here. So my goal today is to get this section right here. The reason why I don't go 8 feet is because it would be right in the middle of the window. So I need to have something solid here to put up against. And the 2x4 holds it out enough where it will clear the window frame and everything. So it cost me a little bit of space, but it's be okay. So I'll put a 2x4 on the other side, and then I'll have one more piece of backdrop there. So I've already marked this. This is how I'm going to do it. I put this up here, butt it up against that. Push it back to as far as I want it. And right there is where I'm going to cove the corner. So I've got it marked. Don't want to let go of it. I don't want to wipe out wherever something, but that is as far as I'm going to cove the corner. You know, could go a little farther if I wanted to, but I think that's good enough. So I have it cut off. Again, it's a lot harder to do this on a layout that is already built. So I'm just going to push it until that thing gets in the center. My water tower is sort of in the way. I'm hoping I can pull up enough slack where I can lean it. Anyhow, shoot that screw. Okay, so that's about in the center. See if I can do this. Well, I sped this part up a little bit so you wouldn't see my struggles. I was really fighting and trying not to damage that water tower. And I was using drywall screws. I'm a big fan of those deck screws with those star heads on them. A lot better than the drywall screws, but these things sit a little bit flusher, the drywall screws. So anyhow, I sped it up. No cussing involved. I didn't do it because of that. I was just trying to not waste your time. Sometimes it's good to have a partner when you do this kind of stuff. See how there it is. Now, it is not completely level. So what I'm going to do, if you can see this right here, that's obviously wrong. So I'm going to put a level on it. I'm going to straighten that up when I shoot it right there. Okay, let it go for a second. Get a screw started. Masonite doesn't want to hold screws, so it doesn't really want to go in. Normally a piece of wood, it'll just go in and start threading. There we go. Okay. Now get the level. Looks pretty good. So now I have a coved corner. Got a little gap here. That's okay. That's going to be covered by the paper, and my next piece will go from there, span the window. This is where I'm going to stop for the day. I could keep on going. I've got the masonite cut, but I really need to have another shelf bracket here. You know, because the door, here's where the door opens, so there is room for another shelf bracket here to support this end of the layout. So I definitely need more than one bracket on this side of the window. So I could go into all the woulda, shoulda, coulda things on this. Again, I had to mount this in place, not in the garage, and I measured wrong and measured wrong again. And when I put it in place up here, the blue painter's tape tore the paper a little bit, which I don't know why. It didn't do it anywhere else, but so I camouflaged it with some white Tamiya flat paint. You can see up here I messed up. I cut it off and then I taped it back, patched it back in, and then down at the bottom I messed up a little bit too. That's because this backdrop actually sits down behind the layout and this one didn't. So I first matched up with that. That hill doesn't match at all, and I wanted the hill to match. So anyhow, it's gonna be okay. When I put the lighting valance on it, you're not gonna see that. And there's very few places you can actually see the backdrop anyhow on the layout. So I could super glue, I could spray adhesive, a strip on there. I've got it cut off. Might do that, but otherwise I think I'll just cover it with a fence or something. So from this point, I can take an 8-foot section, which will almost get me to that wall. The layout's not going to go to that wall, but you know, I could have a little staging yard or something down there. I don't know if it'll be scenic or not, but I'm going to put an 8-foot piece up. I need to put another 2x4 on that side to brace it. Again, I need to get another shelf bracket up there before I can do anything else. So I think this is a good stopping point for the day. It's supposed to be some storms come in here in a little hour or so, so I need to clean up the garage and get the car back in it. So my next one, I'm actually going to talk about what I'm going to be building here anyhow. So pretty happy with the cove corners. I like that a lot. You know, again, I think I need to touch this up a little bit in there, and then I'll be done. So hope everybody stays safe.